Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sonia, and this is my YouTube channel called Sun Heart Harmony. And today I would like to make a video because it's Christmas Day. And for a lot of people, this is a holiday, and they're taking a day off and with their family and friends. And for others, it's just another day if it's not part of their religion. This is something that I really have been studying and looking at, and also downloading. And today I had a deep meditation, and I went for a long walk. It's a beautiful sunny blue sky day, which is quite rare recently. But this is what is happening today, and I decided that I was going to talk a little bit about this idea of Christ, or the Christed being, and Christ consciousness, which is something that someone named Paramahansa Yogananda wrote about in these books called The Resurrection of the Christ Within You and the Second Coming of Christ Consciousness, which is these times that we're in right now. This book was back in the 60s, when the yogis started coming in from getting messages from their higher selves, from their masters, teachers, that it was time to open up this information to the larger masses, because the timing was prophesied. And I've been studying a lot of these prophecies with the Mayan calendar, and I just see a lot of connections with these times right now, and I feel it, and I know a lot of you are feeling it too. There's a lot of purging and releasing that's happening in our subconscious and in our old programs and our old systems, and there we could see the external of what is happening internally, as we are one collective consciousness, and we're coming more and more into the light, which is Christos light. And so right now, Christmas is actually when the solstice is the darkest night of the whole year. And 3 days later, we have the return of the sun, right? The prodigal son, the Christ, the resurrection of the Christ. So the sun comes back. So these natural cycles that we are part of, we could see where history and religion, took a lot of these ancient connections. I guess they were pagan or Druid or Wiccan or whatever, the indigenous, and all of these cultures had these connections already. And the Christ is really about the light, and it's about going into the darkness. And we could view this as our subconscious, also about our shadows, all of our deepest, darkest fears, anything that's related to the lower chakras, the fears of lack, of unworthiness, of abandonment, of betrayal, of all of those lower chakra pains and wounds that we've come in with in this lifetime, and then in other lifetimes as well. So, as a soul having recognition of itself as a soul having this experience, this is why I call embodied wisdom. That's what I talked about in my first YouTube channel, about embodying the wisdom, because that's the truth. The truth is your own reality, your own. Nobody can speak for you or think for you, or create your reality except for yourself. So the thing is, we've been stuck in a very, very limited reality because of a lot of these control systems, such as religion. And we're even, under the time right now, the Gregorian calendar is a time structure that was superimposed onto natural rhythms of time and space. And that's what the Mayan calendar is about. And also we could see that the Jewish and other calendars are not, they don't start when Jesus Christ was born 2,000 years ago. So these are just like things to just think about, as we, I know a lot of people are into celebrating, and that's a great thing. It's a good, a lot of the time it could be a high frequency. It could also be a time of, especially if you're on a spiritual path, of clashing with a lot of these older ideas of um, family and karmic situations, that we keep spinning in and repeating. And actually, the spiritual path is about becoming self-aware and realizing that we might want to start bringing ourselves back into our soul connection, into our higher selves. These times, I personally think, have are really auspicious because we are being asked to connect to that on a very deep and profound level. And it's not a path for everyone, as everyone that's been on a spiritual path has had a lot of initiations, and a lot of it has to do with death of your ego, death of your belief systems, death of everything that you thought was your reality, and then, you know, dying to that. And that can be extremely painful. And yet, there's no birth without death. So, like those tower moments and those realizations of, I can't do this anymore. I just can't repeat this pattern. And if I don't do it, it's game over. I'm not gonna, I know I'm off my track now. I'm off path, and I need to realign with my destiny. So this is where karma gets released from us. And then we step into dharma, which is our soul mission, what we came in to do. And yeah, so I've just been, doing these types of realizations. And just, there's right now, there's so much energy flowing, and also connecting to the higher self is just becoming easier and easier as we release and shed all of those layers that no longer serve us. So that's really what the second coming of Christ consciousness is about. It's not about a Christed one person coming in. We've had, Christed avatars come down, and in many different forms over the last centuries. Once in a while we get these prophets and sages and yogis and that come in to speak. This is always the same information being spoken through different channels, different people that come in and embody, and then they go right back out and probably come back and do it over and over again, which is bodhisattvas, people who have dedicated every lifetime to being of service to the higher reality, which is that we are eternal beings. And right now, what is really resonating with me a lot is for us to claim that within ourselves, that sovereign divinity, meaning that there are higher laws at work than the laws that um, a lot of humans are under control right now. And those laws are serving certain people. They've served institutions that have been oppressing people for a long time, and women and people of different color. And it used to be extremely dangerous to talk about this. And I often had a lot of fears regarding speaking my truth on many levels. But the reality is that as a sovereign being, there are higher laws functioning. And once you've tapped into that, you are protected. You can call in your guides, your angels, the ascended masters, and everybody to come and support you on your journey, so that you're never alone, and that you are protected in a way that that maybe you weren't aware of before. So yeah, I'd like to celebrate this day as the day of the resurrection, of the light coming back, as we've been through a lot of darkness. And these are cycles within cycles and cycles. And astrologically speaking, we are really in incredible times right now, where our whole solar system is aligning with a galactic center. And you can there's a lot of research to look into all of that I've been kind of downloading over the years, and meditating on. And this whole thing about the rainbow body, the rainbow warriors. The time is now, and it really is. Another book is The Yoga of Jesus, which speaks about the missing years when Jesus, I think it was from the age of 13 to his in his mid 20s or something. He was studying in with the yogis in near Egypt, and so a lot of the um, hidden knowledge of this planet, of how energy works, how we can connect to source, God, spirit directly, and not have to have an intermediate do that for us, whether it's a guru or a priest or you know any of these kind of the age of the Piscean age was all about that, about religion, and also about the extreme duality. And now what's happening is we're coming to bridge those realities together. And another thing I'd like to mention with Christ is Sophia, which is also the return of the goddess Sophia. There's been huge downloads that came from the Sophia code when I read that. And that's when I decided to go on my trip to Hawaii to listen to Kaya Ra's. And today, appropriately, when I opened this book, I went into chapter 9, key code 4, which is Mother Mary. And it talks about the oversoul as the architect of your destiny. So why do we meditate? Why do we connect? Why do we kind of tune out of, the matrix or the human reality, and then tune in to what are we tuning into? Well, we're tuning into source and our higher self that exists on a multidimensional level. Before I wasn't able to speak about these things so clearly and transparently, because I still had a lot of fear and a lot of blockages and a lot of shadows that I needed to release. And I'm not saying that I'm all, that I'm completely enlightened being or anything, but I'm definitely on the path of mastery, which is that connection to the oversoul or the higher self. And I just like to read the first paragraph about this, because really claiming our sovereign divinity is one of the most critical things at these times that we can do, and also to be in service to your soul path, and in selfless service to why you came here to serve in these times, with whatever your skills and you know your what you came to do specifically, that is very unique to each one of us, and which is just shining your essence, and being creative, and allowing your true essence and colors to start shining through. And it takes a lot of courage. I'm very grateful that I'm surrounded here with a community of people that have been on that path for a long, long time. I'm not speaking even just in this lifetime, and have taken on a lot of the collective pain body and transmuted it um, through their own vehicles, through their own vessels, through their own experiences. But then some lose track of that, and they end their lives. Or I was on that path myself in the first 20 years of my life. I mean, with some positive and negative mixed in with all of that. But yeah, I think a lot of us have been through through the ringer, through the spiritual ringer, and going into those dark, dark places can be really, really painful and Sometimes you don't make it out, and then you come back, or I'm not sure if you come back here or if you take a break and chill out on some planet of much higher frequency where you don't have to go through all this density, which is probably where we go back, where we have certain remembrances of that. And as we talk about being star seeds, coming, hearing the call from humanity and from Gaia, that we need higher frequencies. And what's happening now is that it's a natural, because of all this light and this transformation, our sun, we're getting a lot of codes and downloads coming in from higher realms to assist us. And it's just we're getting more clarity on that. And to not feed the fear and the anxiety and the stress and the separation and the belief that people are out to get you, or all of these energies, the CNN constant negative news. It's like, who's choosing this news? What is this tell of vision? Whose vision is this? Who decided that this was news? How much is this a reality in your life? Like, these are things to think about. Why is this frequency being broadcast, programmed to everybody? So these are, like, when you start using your own discernment, and when you question, you start to make your own choices about where you're putting your energy and your attention. And this is what is being required of us now, is stop wasting our time with useless information, and start bringing it back into these higher teachings that are all around us and that we can choose from. There's so many. So this is from Mother Mary, and it says, the subject of destiny is misunderstood by many as a mystical, unfathomable power outside of yourself that executes gifts of fortune or punishment upon you, hurting you to desired outcome that may or may not have anything to do with your own personal happiness. I can assure you that your destiny is not defined or controlled by any power outside of you. The only architect of your destiny is your own sovereign oversoul. So my whole body is tingling right now, and that happens a lot now when I feel like I'm speaking truth, and that it needs to be said. And Sophia, this is a message from that, and it says, I love you. You are free. You are me. We are one. And it is safe to remember who you really are now. So these are messages that I really felt a pull towards sharing today, because Christmas is a lot more than what our North American culture has said it was. And the gifts and the shopping and and the food and the kind of overindulgence that this whole thing is about now, very often. It's actually kind of making, I feel a little bit sick, like, just because it's just too much. And but I'm very, very grateful and blessed to be part of a very loving and kind and generous family. I love them all very much. All my aunts, uncles, cousins. There's a tribal sense that no matter what, you will be loved and supported. And I would like that to be sent out right now as a prayer to all that are feeling left out, and perhaps not connected to more of a tribe, or some despair. But then again, sometimes that when we do hit rock bottom, we have no choice but to rise up again, right? So there's a sense of surrendering to people's choices, and becoming more and more, conscious that we are making choices constantly, every day, in every moment, in every way. So um, yeah, I would just I thank you for listening, and I hope that this message brings you into your own place, your place within yourself, to connect to that light, that inner light, and just know that it can get brighter and brighter. And as you do that, it also lights up the shadow aspects, and whatever's uncomfortable, you have to feel it to heal it. And to repress it and push it down can only serve a little while, but eventually it has to be faced. And unfortunately, sometimes it is on people's deathbeds that they have all these regrets. And so maybe now is a good time to look at that, to spend time with whatever it is that needs to be looked at, and processed, and transformed and brought into the light. And as soon as there's a light in the darkness disappears. So thank you so much for listening to me. This is a longer video, but I just want to send that out there, and that Sophia Christ consciousness is upon us, is within us. It never was. It always was, but it's just about us claiming it, and letting our light shine, and not being afraid of that, because we are more powerful together, and we are one, and we are here in service to the whole. And so thank you, and many blessings, and have a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year celebration, everybody. Ciao.